Let's move forward. Yes, let's proceed. Now we need to discuss a couple of more topics. And first topic I want to discuss, it's about using filters. We have these filters. And for this, I need some beautiful volunteer, maybe Martina. You will be our volunteer. Please come here. Okay, please take a seat. And you know that first thing I need to do, I need to clean the glass with dry cloths. So please don't clean glass with alcohol. You know that we have some alcohol pads. We can use it, but after this, we need to clean with this and wait for 10-15 minutes. So only if you have some really dirty glass, then you can. In most cases, just normal close, it's enough. But you should do it after every person, obligatory. You know this. Then we close this. Now we need to create a new person. Yes. Yes. I don't have this. Let me see. Yes. I know Martin, of course. In the data.
29, 9, July 1979.
Okay. Okay, now we take full scan, please. In principle, person can sit. You can sit. It's not that important, so it's up to you. What's more? Next one, please. Next one. Next one. And little one. And other hand as well. Next one. Next one. Next one. And little one. Yes. And you understand it shows us these red marks everywhere. It's indication of extra light. So light. Because we have open windows here. And the one option just to clean it, another option we would be able just to cover it with some dark cloth like we did yesterday, and then it would be no marks like this. Okay, still it shows us those two marks. Let's check bits here a little bit. Yeah, was up there. And still it's here, maybe because they have a lot of noise inside, but still I see that it's okay, so I can make analysis. Okay, so now we did it. Now and now let's repeat measurement with filter. Okay. Next one. Next one. No, once more. Next one. Next one. Next one. No, it's one. Small one, two. It's little one, yes. Okay, and other hand as well. Next one. Next one. Okay, so now we need to process all of them. I saved everything. Now I will write. Okay, so again, those two we have read, but it was the same as yesterday in the previous measurement. Okay, now I need to compare those two readings. And you see the difference. It was without filter, 55 joules. It is with filter, 64 joules. If we go to Chuck, very similar pattern, not big difference. So we see this before. It was before. This time before and this time after. You see the difference. So before it was alignment 77%. After it is 79. So it's practically the same, just some variation. In analysis, again, it was 278 to 64. And those two parameters are practically the same. In health status, we have this minus 54.67, minus 30.13. So, and in energy reserve as well, we have increase of energy reserve. So, what does it mean? Without filter, we take her cycle it is both physical side and influence of mental state, emotions. With filter, we take only emotional side. It has nothing to do with only physical state, only physical side, I'm sorry. Only physical, without emotions. So we just cut off all emotional side. And this way we can see, first of all, the physical condition. And if people have some physical with filter, but it's serious problem, it's severe problems. And other problems there are just diminished. And in this case, we see that in both side case, energy diagram is in energy reserve is in good range. Health diagram is in good range as well. So if we go, for example, compare this without filter, energy reserve, it's 48%. So with filter, if we go, so it was 48, it is with filter. No, this is with filter, with filter. So with filter, energy reserve is 82%. You see. So it's understand that physical body is good, but emotionally is we have something to do with, something to fight with. Okay, so that is why filters, they are quite good, and to show people what is it, to show for yourself, to be sure. Filters, they just are special, it's a special plastic that we are it's designed from very special plastic. So we are developing this as a special system, and we produce it, and you can buy it in hundreds. So every pack is 100 filters, so they are available. Okay, that's clear. Yes, understandable. Now let us make one more experiment. BioClip. And for BioClip, for a long time, we produce these blue connectors. Now we don't use this anymore, so we just throw this out. We don't need it anymore because they were found not to be sensitive enough. But we have produced, we have developed and produced another stuff. It's a special glove. And this glove, it is very special glove, of course. It's not, it's a magic glove, I would say. This allows us to take measurement of the people's emotions. So please take this glove on your hand. Yes. Yeah. Okay, please take a seat. And now I connect this glove to the. And now internet connection is unstable. Why? Why again it's unstable? I don't know where is my internet connection. Should be. Okay, but let's hope. So we go to environmental mode. And please, no, of course. So you need to sit just nearby. Yes. Well, just put and sit in a relaxed way. So that is very important. So person is sitting in a relaxed way. Both hands are laying on the table. So that's very important because otherwise we'll have, same as you are measuring when you're measuring blood pressure, you need to keep hand in appropriate position. So same here. You sit here in a relaxed way and we start this measurement. First. And then after some time, we can make some measurement. So let's take, for example, 2 minutes for background. You see, this computer is not fast enough to collect all data, but still we have some. So our goal to see quite stable signal at the background. It's quite stable, but let's take at least a couple of minutes. So you understand that this is dynamical measurement from person, and this magic glove, it is conductive glove. So it allows us to take internal currents from the body. That's why it's very special glove. But now we have to have it. And you see on this graph, I see time scale. This is time scale. And I see time of my computer. My computer is set to Russian time, so it's 1 hour more, you see. So that's, we need to take into account when we take measurements in other countries, that it takes computer time. Okay, so we have this. It's quite stable. Let's take, for example, let's have a view to standard deviation. Quite stable signal. Now, can you give me this device from your pocket? Add label. And now please keep this in your hand. Yes, like this. And just relaxed. And so we see this magic stuff, magic device. Yes. Yeah, so let's see, is it really magic or it's nonsense? So you see, first we had this first response to this first impression. So it's not significant response for the real measurement. But of course, in dynamics, it's very difficult to evaluate. So we need maybe a couple of more minutes to make comparison and to understand what's going on. So let's wait 2 more minutes. And we see this timeline. So we can understand. It's impossible to make it before. So let's wait a little bit more to be sure. Okay, now we can stop. Okay. Okay, thank you. Just sit here, but just relax, and you can leave it. Just leave it. Okay, so again, we need to make statistics, yes? So let's make statistics. I'm here, so we put 0. We can add, so it's 1, it was just beginning. So let's make max. Just I want to put max to make statistics to, of course, it would be good to make it longer, but still it doesn't. First, we need just to see effect. So you see, every 3 interval, I can just put some marks. Okay, so now we can calculate. You see, so we are comparing intervals with 0. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all other intervals. So here we see no effect at all, practically no effect. And you see on statistics, no effect. Let's go to intensity. Again, no effect. To standard deviation, so it was this initial, then it was response just to measurement, then it was practically, I would say, no effect at all. So here it was 100, here it is 115. 98, 103, 115, 87. So from this experiment, I would conclude that this subject has no influence to her energy. Okay. Just you can throw it out, but not through the glass. Okay, and this way, of course, we can test whatever. Same, of course, if we test mobile phone, it would have tremendous influence. We understand this as well. So we can, if we give her in her hand mobile phone, then of course it would be strong influence, or something else. So any subject. Mm-hmm. Food, medication, anything. So we have 2 modes. We have 1 finger mode, but 1 finger mode, you can't take it for a long time. Because in 1 finger mode, it's impossible to keep 1 finger for a long time in one same position. In this situation, she can sit for a long time. And I can show you just example. Let me show you example. Okay, let's show this example. Okay, this example was laying down on the stomach for 10 minutes. And then doctors applied device with ultrasound, diagnostic ultrasound, applied to the back. And you see, it was very clear response. So those are two different people. It was many people, but all of them had response. But in this case, response was dropping down. In this case was increased, but then dropping down. And then after 10 minutes of ultrasound, it was next response, but you see it was reaction. So it was two types of response. One, for one people, it was coming down. For other people, it was coming up. But still, it is clear that ultrasound every time generate response. That's why it was confirmation, very important confirmation for doctors that ultrasound has effect. And you see, it was for an hour. So person was able to lay there for an hour, and it was possible to take measurement. So this way you can measure long processes. And this is the difference between one finger mode and this mode. Okay? Okay. No. Now let's do as follows. Please take this off. We don't need this anymore. And now I want to show you our device that we name BioCor. So we are measuring energy field. Then we go to chakras, and listen here, it's Martina. So we don't need timing. Okay. So we keep very bad internet, but still, I hope it works. Now we have this device here. And this device has device itself. This is this device, BioCor. And of course, cables, different electrodes. And there are two electrodes in here. Two electrodes. So one electrode is designed for earphones. Those are not simple earphones, but special earphones. And I take one electrode and connect it to the earphone. You see, now it is connected. You see? Now please take this on. Then I connect this to device. And you see it's green and red, so it's impossible to change it. Okay, it's okay, let's put it here. And I connect this device to my computer. It may be computer, it may be earphone with music. It may be any device that generates music. In this case, of course, it's easy for me from computer, but you understand that you can use any type of device. Now I need to go to this music. It's Martina. Very important to create some level of sound, because some people claim, oh, I don't hear anything, but if you don't know sound, then of course you don't hear it. So let's make this sound. Do you hear? Not yet. Yeah. Now we apply this electrode to the forehead area, like this, you see? And we turn on this device. I press button, and you see it gives a signal. So now we have this music for 10 minutes. You see, it's coming. And now just relax, sit, listen. So now she is listening to this music for 10 minutes, and she has this signal from the device. So it's a mixture of music therapy, because it's very special music, and frequency therapy. And again, it's very special frequency. We have, with this device, we have another cable, this one. For this cable, we have another electrode, it's different, so it's impossible to mix them because it has different connector. And here you connect it to this electrode, and this electrode we can apply to water like this and fix it with some plaster, for example, and again apply same signal to water, and this charge water. So we recommend to keep this at some jar, and it should, of course, it should be glass jar, not plastic, not metal in this case, and just to keep it, to plaster this and to keep it in the jar, and then put water. So you have some influence from music and from signal, and you may have this influence from water as well. So if you drink water, this is structured water. And of course, you can test this water with water electrode, and you see that it's really structured before and after. So it's absolutely clear. So this is very good type of therapy. And this is very important. It's individual therapy. It's based on individual frequency of a person. So for every person, this frequency is different. You can hear a difference in sound as well. Sensitive people, they hear it very well. But the most important is frequency in its frequency. And it's organized this way. So we change this frequency from maybe not very good frequency to ideal frequency. So it is transformation of signal. And this allows system to transform from maybe not very good case, condition to ideal condition. And this is very, very powerful system, very powerful. So we have big experience with this. It is created by, together with our dear colleagues and friends from Siberia. They have big company, because this technology, it is based on very interesting Russian development. I know that my background was quantum physics, and in Soviet time, I was working in many research lines with quantum physics, with plasma physics, laser physics, different modalities of quantum physics. And the chief of our university was academician Devatkov. He was one of the head of Soviet science. And in Soviet Union, most of science was dedicated to military. So it was clear. And it was spent a lot of money on development, on science. So in Soviet Union, science was at great level, very big level. So it was always competition with American science. And academician Devatkov, most of his life, he was developing different military applications. But when he became 80 years old, he decided to make something for humanity. And they found that people who work with some type of frequency devices, military devices, they're very healthy. They're very strong, very healthy. They don't have any illnesses. So it was found just because, officers who work with these devices, they are very healthy. And they decided to develop this principle. It was big research. And it was shown that this particular frequency has direct influence to cells. to cell level. You remember I've shown you these graphs of different influences. And you remember that ultraviolet, it is energetic influence. But ultraviolet has low penetration. If we go to infrared, then it is more deep penetration and it influences to vessels. But if we go to much higher frequency, much higher frequency, then it is direct influence to cell level, because the frequency of waves are very high, and it correlates, it resonates with the frequency of cells. That is why it is direct influence to cell level. So this technology was developed. It was a lot of research in medicine and very good results. They start produce this technology in Russia, but then in Soviet Union, but then Soviet Union collapsed because it was by the end of 80s, beginning of 90s. But still, there are several companies in Russia who are producing this device, this type of technology. And this company in Tomsk, they are very good friends of us, of Kirill. Kirill knows them very well as well. And they produce this equipment for medicine, as medical equipment. Now they sell it in different countries as well. And we agreed that we develop together this approach, music and frequency. So you see this been developed together with this company, and now we have it. You see, this is a computer program, algorithm, artificial intelligent program, because this program calculates what frequency this person has, and then it is changing it to most positive frequency, because we understand what is good and what is bad. In all our programs, we have a range of beneficial health and range of deviations. That's why it is totally automatic artificial intelligence algorithm. Yeah, of course. But for every person, individual music, that's obligatory. You see, music, it is individual. And frequency is modulated by this music. You see, the principle is as follows. Let me show you. You know that music, it is very low frequency. It's like wave. So frequency of music, it's 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz. This is frequency of music, what we can hear. And all music, regardless in which country, it is in this range. In this device, we're using frequency that is gigahertz. So strange. So it is like 10 billion hertz. You see the difference. And that is why with this frequency, we modulate this high frequency. So we have so-named amplitude modulation of this super high frequency. That's why this high frequency is modulated for the particular person in accordance with this frequency. Okay, so now we finish this measurement, and now we can repeat measurement. Okay, Martina, you can take off the earphones. I'll have two Martinas, but I know which is one because you see I have date. Okay, so, okay, are you ready? I need to connect this here. Next one, please. Next one. Next one, please. And little one. And other hand as well. And little one. Okay, thank you. Okay, now I need to process this data. Okay, now let's make analysis. And now we need to compare this BioCor. And I need to press this button save to save this information. So I compare this with initial measurement. And you see the difference. You see, it was 55 joules before. Now it's 60 joules. If you look to chakras, it was 77. Now, remember, with filter, we didn't have this difference. It was same measurements with filter, without filter on chakra level. Here we have big difference before after. If we go to analysis, so it was initially 278, then it became 259. So we've seen this difference on energy. Balance became much better, you see. 91%, 99. Health status, so it was -5, -7. Now it became -3, -4. So it's much better. Energy reserve as well, you see, it's much better. And of course, we can see this on graphs as well. So on graphs on all parameters, it's increase of parameters. So if we look to this, and now it is 64%. So you see, it was very short influence, only 10 minutes, but we see this dramatic change, really big change. Yes, it should be 10 minutes per day. Of course, or twice a day. Yes, twice a day is very good as well. Obligatory to do it. That's very important. And for example, after lunchtime, people can lay down, make this 10 minutes, maybe sleep a little bit, then wake up in much better conditions. No. We don't need early in the morning, because early in the morning, it's different story. Because early in the morning, you need to be active. You don't need to be very calm. And this is relaxation. This very strong relaxation procedure. What for? No. You see, again, it allows people to relax. So they can do it when they need to relax. So obligatory before going to sleep. If they are very excitated, very nervous, then of course it's good as well. Very good as well. Yeah, that's very good, of course. So how they use it in different clinics? First of all, they use it for patients in the clinic. So stress situation, makes this 10 minutes, measurement 10 minutes, it's much better, of course. Then they show this to people and they tell, okay, if you want to have real effect, you need to do it every night. For this, you can rent this device from us, for example, $10 per or €10 per day for a week. And then after a week, you come to us and we repeat measurement and we see how it works. So it's practically 100% effect. So people typically buy it after this and they can use it at home. And they can use it for themselves, for their family, for everybody. So it is very, very good device, and we are very happy with this development. Okay. Yes. No. It depends on the person. It depends on the person, of course. No. Of course, it's better to use it every night. Every night. Because you see, what does it mean? In other words, it's like a guided meditation. So most of people, they don't know what does it mean meditation. They don't know how to do meditation. They lay down, they look around, but what to do? They don't know. And they pretend doing meditation, but for them it's boring, they stop it. With this device, you have music, beautiful music, and you have beautiful effect. So it is like, it makes people, they have to do this because they have this device. No, this music not selected, but it's created by the computer. Again, you see it's different. You create this music. So algorithm, special algorithm generates this music. Yes, absolutely. Of course, it will change. Of course, that's clear. Not really. Nothing can help in Alzheimer. It can help only if you kill person, and it's of course it's the only solution. No other solutions for Alzheimer, because it is it's so dreadful situation, and it's total destroying of brain, because it's very at the moment in modern medicine, modern science, we have no way how we can stop Alzheimer. No way at all. But it's absolutely unpredictable situation. So unfortunately, it can help with depression. It helps with when people have some insomnia, and even clinical insomnia. Then it helps a lot. In some psychological stations, then it helps. Okay. Okay. Do you have questions on this? Okay. So let's move. Thank you very much. Yes, you're very kind. Okay. So let us move to next topic of our program. It was a lot of questions about water, and we did some measurements of water. It's a very important part of our activity. So I want to tell you some, because I participate a lot in water research, and we have these big conventions on water. So let me show you some new data on water. Okay, so Water Revolution, Scientific Basis for Homeopathy. This is practically the name of our next book that we are preparing now, together with my friend and colleague, Professor BioCor. And I hope to have this book by September somewhere. Now it's in the process, and Alec is helping a lot with this book, as with all other books. So, you know, water is the basis of life. But in reality, water, it is life. So without water, life is impossible. We can live without food, but it is impossible to live without water. And we have, of course, we need to understand what does mean quality of water. But for this, we need to understand what does it mean water. Because water has a lot of enigmatic properties. You know this animal? But do you know that this animal is 99.9% of water? So it's just life water. You know that in seawater, we have same mineral content that in our blood. So or vice versa. In our blood, we have same mineral content than in ocean water. We have many questions. Why do we see clouds? We understand when we see mist, it's water vapors in the air. But why do we see clouds? And we don't know the reason. And you know, when you fly on the airplane, you see beautiful clouds that are very, very stable. They can stay for days. But why? Another very funny questions. How do water and radiant energy separate charge? Because we know that we have very high strikes, lightnings. Every lightning is huge energy, tremendous energy. It's billions of amperes of current. It means it's huge charge separation between us and the cloud. And you remember I've told you before, we have Earth. It has negative charge, and we have cloud that has positive charge. Because ionosphere is charged positively. And then when this difference is very big, then we have this lighting. But you can imagine that it's huge energy, tremendous energy. So it is tremendous charge separation. So why don't we have lightning from every cloud? Why? Why sometimes we have lightning from some clouds? From some clouds we don't have it. Why? It's no answer in modern science, even more than that. We have two clouds. Why can we have lightning between two clouds? They are just nearby. But it's very typical to have lightning between two clouds. You see, like this. So it's a question that has no answer in modern science. No answer at all. Not to tell about light bulbs. You know that it happens. And again, it's another enigma. So water is absolutely unique substance in the universe. We, in science, we have 43 unique properties of water and 14 different forms of ice. And you know what is the only substance where solid stuff is much easier than liquid stuff? The only substance. And what does it mean? It is the reason why we have life in northern sea and northern oceans. Because ice is easier, lighter than water, so it floats on the surface, and all life can live under ice. Would it be vice versa? Then ice would be kept at the bottom, and slowly it would come to the top, and everything would have been frozen. No life. So it's again, it's absolutely unique situation. Water is the only substance that can exist in 4 situations, in 4 stages simultaneously. So it is maybe ice on the water, it may be water vapors simultaneously, and we know now it's maybe structured or clustered water. So it is 4 phases of water that can exist simultaneously. No other substance can have it. And as I've told, water has very strong potential of absorbing any energy, and water can absorb energy from outside, from the air. Water absorbs electromagnetic energy, in particular light. That's why you would have never keep good wine on sun, but same with water. If you keep water on the sun, it will be strong transformation and may be spoiled. Of course, water has absorbed all contaminations because water is the best solvent. You know that water can dissolve practically everything. Even glass may be slowly, very slowly dissolved by water, but very slowly, of course. And of course, we have water changes under movement. So movements totally change water structure. And we had many interesting researchers. For example, it was Masaru Emoto, and we were very good friends with him, who did many experiments. You know, he developed his own technology for water study, beautiful technology. And he did this type of frozen crystals. And it was clear difference between crystals from good water and crystals from bad water. So this technology still exists. And he was a wonderful person, and a very spiritual, of course, person. But maybe, I don't know whether you know not about Jacques Benveniste. Jacques Benveniste, it was really a big tragedy of his life. He was one of the top biochemists in France. He was considered as one of the top. And at some moment, one of his friends asked him to make a study of homeopathy solution. And he thought, but it's nonsense. Homeopathy doesn't exist because there are no molecules. But he asked, no, please make this study. And he started doing this study. And this is stage of dilutions. And he's seen that still water keeps property of this under high dilution. They made very precise experiments, and they found that under high dilution, water keeps property of solvent. So for him, it was a big discovery. He prepared very good article with many contributors, and he sent this article to Nature. You know, Nature is a top level journal because he was publishing before in Nature. And editor of Nature told him, Jacques, please take your paper out. I don't want you to publish this because it's too controversial. It will be too many controversial topics. But he thought, no, it is, I'm showing my results, please have it published. And they published it, but then they organized a group of, I would say, it was 4 people. It was editor of Nature journal. It was one physicist who never ever had never worked with water. And it was one magician person who was presenting in circus with magic tricks. And they came to the laboratory of Benveniste and they asked him to replicate experiments. So they had 3 times replication, it was very good. But then they asked to change some conditions. And they changed condition and they failed. It was no replication. And then it was published big article in Nature that, oh, we checked these experiments, it's total nonsense, it's big mistake of the scientists, so we know that it was intentionally done. So all reputation of Benveniste was totally crashed. He had big department, he was the head of department in Pasteur Institute, one of the top institute in France, but then he was fired from this institute. And he lost his reputation. He was fired from scientific community. He kept little laboratory. And then later, of course, his results was reproduced by himself, by other scientists, but still he was totally destroyed. And I met him in 2002. We met at some conference. He was in very bad mood. And you see, he died 2 years after. So this is his paper. And of course, it was based on the principle that he was trying to find scientific evidence of homeopathy. You know that homeopathy was developed by Samuel Ghanneman in the 19th century. And Ghanneman was very good doctor, very good scientist. And he really proven that it works very well. And we are using homeopathy. Many doctors in Russia, the homeopathy in Russia is well accepted line. Then it was Dr. Edward Bach in the beginning of 20th century who developed his own line, very similar to homeopathy, Bach flowers. And again, it works very well. Then I need to mention the name of Victor Schauberger, who did a lot of research on moving water. And he, because he wasn't really a scientist. He was an engineer. But he found that when water moves in streams, in rivers, water keeps very special properties. And those properties depend on moon, depend on sun. So in daytime and night, water has different properties. And for example, when trouts move up to the river, they move mostly at night. Because at night, movement is much easier than at daytime. So he did a lot of research, he demonstrated a lot of data, but of course it wasn't well accepted by scientific community. And only later, Rudolf Steiner accepted his ideas and developed his own line of agriculture. And Steiner agriculture is very well known. But of course, all this was just empirical. And it would have been empirical except of ideas of 2 gentlemen. Those 2 gentlemen, both was Italian physicists. First it was Giuliano Preparata, then later on it was only Emilio Del Giudice. And Emilio Del Giudice, he was a wonderful person, he was a great person, he has tremendous humor, he was a very kind person, and he was a genius. And together, and lately just Emilio, they developed a system of quantum electrodynamics of water. So we have quantum mechanics, but it is quite primitive. And it can give us explanation of simple atoms. Of course, it created explanation of Mendeleev table. So it was great development. But still, calculation with quantum mechanics is practically impossible. So it's just artificial system. So lately, it was developed quantum electrodynamics, and it was developed by Richard Feynman, who got Nobel Prize for this, and he's one of the genius of 20th century, and he's a very humorous person. It's very interesting to read his books. Richard Feynman, he was participating in Manhattan Project when they created atomic bomb as theoretician. Then he was lecturing in American universities, and he created this line as quantum electrodynamics. So it is application of quantum principles to description of very complicated systems like gas, like solid state, and Emilio applied it to water. From their description, it comes that water may create areas where all water molecules are in resonance. So they named it as coherent domains. So you know that ordinary water, it's in chaotic state. So all molecules, they move, they have their own frequencies. But under some conditions, areas of water can organize and have resonance. So it looks like a dancing hall. So you know that it's not like a military regiment, but it's more like dancing hall. When there are groups of people dancing and they move in resonance with music, but differently. A little bit this way, that way. They all move in accordance with music, but every couple or every person moves a little bit differently. And there are around group of people who are just drinking, talking, sitting, and then they exchange. Some people go drinking, some people go dancing. So same we have in coherent domains in water. Same, absolutely same story. So it was, you need to understand, it is very precise scientific theory. It is published in peer-reviewed top-level journals, Journal of Physical Review Journal, Applied Physics Journal. So it's top level, and it's based on top-level mathematics. And it gives us really scientific background for understanding water. Another name that I need to mention, this is the name of academician Alexander Konovalov. This is another great person. Now he's 82 years old, but he's very active, energetic. He's doing a lot of research, and his life is amazing. For 10 years, he was rector of one of the biggest university in Russia, in Kazan. It's a very big city in big area, Tatarstan, and he was rector. He became top-level scientist in early when he was quite young, and he became rector of the top-level university. For 10 years, he was rector of this university. University was on very high status, but after 10 years, he told, it's enough. I need to give power to other young people. And he became just professor in the department. But then after 1 year, he was invited to be director of the National Institute of Organic Chemistry. And for 10 years, he was director of this Institute of Organic Chemistry. But then when he was 78, he told again, I'm not young, please, I need to give it to someone else. And he just had his own laboratory. And in this laboratory, he dedicated his scientific life to study of high dilutions. You understand what this means, high dilution? It means we take water, we put some substance in the water, then we need to have succussion. Of course, now they don't make it with hand, they have special machines, but they need succussion for about half an hour. It's obligatory. Then they put this bottle on the table, and it should stay for a night or 12 hours. Then they take this water, divided to half, add extra water, again succussion, again staining. So it is a classical homeopathic procedure, how they prepare homeopathic remedy, and this way they've done their dilutions. And they've been studying many substances, and they found that most of substances has very high activity at high dilutions. So you see at this graph, those are 4 different substances, just examples. So it is stage of dilution. So it's 8 stage, 10, 12, 14, 16 stage, and 20 stage. So it's practically close to Avogadro number. And you see, this is activity of the substances. So they had biological active substances, they had chemical substances, so they were able to check activity and physical properties. And they found that at some high dilutions, there are peaks of activity. So it is again proof of homeopathy principles. But they've been using a lot of most modern instruments that exist maybe in a couple of labs in the world. And in particular, instrument under the name laser dynamic scattering. This is layer of water or liquid. Then they put laser light, and then they send another laser light that reflects from this laser light. And they study this reflection. And in this reflection, they see image, like a pattern. And this pattern, it gives structure of this liquid. So if it's a homogeneous liquid, then it's just nothing on this pattern. If there are some structures, you can see the structure physically. And this is very precise because it is light, so they can see structures up to tens of nanometers size. So they've been studying many substances, almost now it's more than 100 substances, compounds. And they've been using physical, biochemical, biological methods. So it was very complex investigation in very big range. And you see it's many biological stuff. So they've been studying physical properties and in parallel biological properties. And they demonstrated that at high dilutions, there are biological properties, biological effect. So it is clear scientific evidence of homeopathy. Absolutely clear. But it's only part of the story. Because Konovalov made tremendous discovery. To my mind, it's really one of the greatest discovery. What they did, they had at some dilution, they had this dilution with some concentration, then divided to 2 parts. They make succussion, dilution, and one part they keep on the table in laboratory. Another part they bring and put inside the permalloy container. Permalloy container, it is material that totally blocks electrical fields and magnetic fields. So both electrical and magnetic fields are totally blocked. You understand? So it's even not a Faraday chamber, it's much stronger than this. But it's little sample, so it's easy to do. And what they found if substance is kept in this permalloy container, there are no effect at all of dilution. So with electromagnetic field, with geomagnetic field, it is effect of high dilutions. If it's blocked, no effect at all. And this, of course, it's tremendous discovery because it's shown. And then they found that it is just a geomagnetic field, not electrical fields so much. So it is geomagnetic field that we have around our Earth. So it is understandable. What does it mean, high dilutions? In our body, We have these homeopathic dilutions all the time. You can imagine, you eat something, you piece of carrot, for example, vitamin C, very good. Then you dilute it to all your body, to all your blood. What concentration of this vitamin C you have in your cells? Nothing. So this is high dilution, and we shake it all the time. Then we lay down. So we allow this to process. So again, it's absolutely clear, understandable effect that we have these homeopathic properties in our body all the time. And it's stupid approach of modern medicine that they rejected. But it's clear that without geomagnetic field, it is impossible. That is why to live inside the cave deep underground, it is impossible to be healthy. Impossible. And I can tell you funny stories about this. One funny story is like this. You know that we had our satellite station, cosmic station, and it was, we had it in Soviet Union for 20 years. And I was involved in some research with these satellite stations, and they've told very funny story. At some moments, astronauts was becoming very aggressive. They did not follow regulations from the command center. They didn't want to do what they had to do. At one moment, two guys was start fighting. And you can imagine how funny it was without gravitation, when two guys try to kick each other. But of course, it was but next day they became very calm and they made excuses to each other, to the command center. And so it was a big enigma, why it happens. And we have in Russia a big institution. The name of this institution is the Institute of Medical Biological Problems. And in Soviet time, it was totally secret institute, but we had some research together with them. So I know this. And it was a big program to find out why it happens, because it was happening from time to time. So it took practically 2 years of research, but then finally it was proven that it happens when geomagnetic field has no variation. You remember that we see this variation of all parameters, that is obligatory for life. Life can't be stable, can't be constant. We need to change all the time. We need to deviate. And it was found that we are deviating in accordance with geomagnetic field. So when there are no geomagnetic field, no activity, and life is impossible. And of course they did, Konovalov did control experiments. They put in permalloy container very little source of this magnetic field, and then everything was okay. So so it was, and they were able to measure this with the device, to measure these coherent domains. And then it was very important that we have one. Unfortunately, Emilio, he passed away in 2014. But we have people, theoreticians, who proceed with his activity. And in particular, there are one lady, Tamar Yinon, in Israel, who is doing these theoretical calculations. And she did theoretical calculations for Konovalov experiments. And it was very close correlation between experimental data and theoretical predictions. Very, very close. Then you know that in science, if you have theory and if you have experiment, if they match together, then it's really what proves that it's really so. So it was great development. Next guy who is very important, it is Luc Montagnier, French scientist, physiologist, microbiologist. He got his Nobel Prize for discovering AIDS virus. it was a separate story. And then he dedicated his life now to high dilutions. So he decided to prove that Benveniste was right. And Montagnier, he is top level, he's Nobel Prize winner, so it's impossible to destroy him like this, like Benveniste. That's why some scientists are very skeptical, but still he can work in his lab. He has some funding, and he's doing experiments. They are measuring signal from water, and just measuring signal. And they do experiments with DNA solutions. So they have dilutions, high dilutions of DNA. Then they can measure signal from DNA. And they demonstrate that even at high dilutions, they have signal that correlate with DNA. So this is mathematical process of signal from pure water, and this is from DNA. And they demonstrate that at high dilutions, they have this signal. Then they did another experiments. They took DNA, you see it's tube 1, and they put it nearby tube with clear water, just clear, pure water. And of course, all was closed, everything was absolutely sterile. And they put this in a coil, inside the coil, that generated 7 hertz. And you know, 7 hertz, it is Schumann frequency. It's frequency of our brain. And they left it for 18 hours together. So they were staying there for 18 hours. Then they made analysis of this water with so-named PCR reaction, and they found DNA in pure water. So you see it is transformation of information from DNA to pure water and recreation of DNA in pure water. And we understand this is absolutely new understanding of origin of life, because it means that life may be transported not just by sexual encounter. Of course, it's most pleasant to transport life this way, but it may be transported just by informational signal. And now we have this experiment that proves that it's really, and it's repeatable experiment. Now, so you see it's like a DNA, water, and then you transform and you have DNA in pure water. And this is published in papers. Now they make it next level. They make DNA, then they record signal from DNA. They send this signal through internet, and they can record this signal on computer, process this signal through water, and have DNA in pure water. So it's possible to send information at the distance through internet. So this is how it works now. And you see this Luc Montagnier, and this is my friend Vladimir Voyekov, who is another great scientist in water research. And we had many meetings, we had wonderful time together. But to have many meetings, we need to have some break as well. And then we proceed with this all information. So let's make break for 15, 20 minutes, and then we can proceed. Okay, may I have your attention? Yes. Okay. So let's proceed with this discussion. So now I hope you understand what that means, this research of Luc Montagnier, why he is attacked by many conventional scientists, but let's hope that he will be energetic. Unfortunately, he's not young. He's 86, something like this kind. Okay, but another great scientist who is really great, and I love him. This is Jerry Pollack. So I mentioned his research, and this is his book, The Fourth Stage of Phase of Water. And I was telling you about this book. So he found that, again, that nearby surface water separate charge. And this is great discovery. So this is like a battery. And one more topic, that nearby surface, all water molecules, they are organized. So it is, he names this as exclusion zone, because this zone excludes positive charge. That's why it's named like exclusion zone. And we understand this is a zone of organized molecules nearby surface. And this is type of crystalline water. And this is, he named it as fourth stage of water. And he told that it was known from 1912s, but it was not well accepted by that time. And very important, the influence of light, very important to water, because it gives us very different understanding of life as well. So water, it's a battery. And what charges this battery? Of course, it's sun. So sun creates this separation of charge in water. So sun generates heat from one point of view, it's conventional point of view, but very important is that sun generates order in water. And this principle gives us understanding of many properties. For example, how water moves up to the tree, how blood moves along the capillaries, only because of this charge separation. So only because of this, water or blood can move along very narrow capillaries, because it's electrical force. And due to this charge separation, so Pollack demonstrated that if you take little tube, put it in the water, that water starts flowing by itself. You don't need to apply some force or something. It starts flowing. So it was clear demonstration and clear experiments. So it gives us one more principle, one more understanding of origin of life. Another interesting application of this idea, it is so named ideas of DST fund. So this fund, they create informational copies of different remedies. So they take some tablet or remedy, and they can charge water with this remedy. Then they put informational copy of this remedy on the internet. You can download this copy and write on CD disk. And then you put water on the CD disk, and water is charged with this remedy. So it's structured water. And it's active company, they work for several years. They have very good clinical results. We can see this, their results on internet. So it's very interesting development as well. So why it is all important? First of all, it is foundation for any science involving water and light. So it's new science of water. And it's important in physics, chemistry, biology. Then it is foundation for new engineering and new practical devices. And now we do have these practical devices. So I'm involved a lot in this study with our instrument, with our GDV Bio Well, and I'm consulting with many companies. And many companies have really great results. There are one company in the United States, they produce a device, and it looks like a tube, metal tube, and they had many experiments in India. It's not really experiments. There are big fields in India where people grow some vegetation, and they just give them this device, and people water their plants with structured water and with ordinary water. And you see the difference. So from one and the same field with normal water, it is 1,300 kilos of tomatoes. With structured water, it's more than 2,000 kilos of tomatoes. And with other in other farm, it's even better result. With tsunami, again, it's 1,000 kilos from normal field and more than 2,000 kilos from another field. So it twice yield of crops is twice, only with water. And you understand that this device, it doesn't need any electricity, it doesn't need any processing. It's just metal tube, but very specially constructed. It's big tube, but very specially constructed. Then another crop, and again 130 grains per rice shields and 300 grains. So you see huge difference. And this is just normal people. They are just farmers. They are not scientists. They're just normal farmers. What was the most impressive for me, it's a result on chicken farm. So they just give this water to chicken, and chicken who had this structured water, they were much more healthy. They didn't have any illnesses. They didn't use any antibiotics, any hormones. And you see, it was total weight of some population of chicken was practically twice as much as normal population. You see, it was 3,800 kilos of weight of normal chicken and 5,500 kilos of chicken that had this water. And it's same population of chicken, same eggs, same type of eggs. So, and average weight 1.5, 1.8 kilos. So you see, it's really big, huge difference, really huge difference. And those are happy, nice chicken. They don't have illnesses, they are happy, they are lucky. So you see, it's very, very practical application. And of course, we start this with our technology. And we can see influence of water to people. We have many data of this kind. So before and after. And this is a device developed in France by Dr. Guy Langechamp. And so it's a lot of data like this, you see. And this is a big statistical difference. So we have different approach how to study water. With Bio Well, you see one approach, but we have another approach with so-named suspended drop. And for this approach, we are now producing so-named Bio Well Pro camera. And it will be on the market somewhere in July after our conference, after our congress. So we have many experiments of this kind. We're using special system to measure water and different other stuff. And you see, when we can see structure of water. So it's absolutely different images of distilled water, active water, and for example, water after charging. And you can charge it with device, or you can charge it with intention. So it's really big difference. And some images there are really very interesting. If you're a real witch, you can do this. But it depends on yourself. But I am sure you need to fly to beach Shabash. After this, you can do this. Konovalov. Okay, let me explain to you. This is S. This is sun. For unknown to us reason, S has magnetic field. We don't know why, but it has magnetic field. And this field, it works like this. You see, this is how our, so this is different. Of course, it's North Pole, South Pole. This is continents, different continents. And this is how geomagnetic field is created. We don't know why. And we know this is North Pole, this is South Pole. We know that from time to time in history it was reverse. It was several million years ago. Now we have some indications it may be reversed again. There are some indications. Of course, it has tremendous impact on biological life. And due to this magnetic field, sun sends particles. And what does mean particles? It's not only photons. It's a lot of radioactive particles. Plus, we discussed that photons has energy. And they generate active particles. And all those active particles, and we name it radioactivity, but in reality it's particles. So they are trapped by this geomagnetic field. They are kept there. That is why we don't have high level of radioactivity. When cosmonauts go to cosmos, they have very high level of radioactivity, and they are exposed to very high radiation. But at the same time, they are exposed to this geomagnetic field. So you understand, this geomagnetic field, it is interaction between Earth and Sun. Plus, there are cosmic rays. Some of them, they come through the Earth. It is so-named radiation. Some of them, they generate again particles. So it is interaction of the Earth with universe. Plus, we have Moon in here. Moon has tremendous effect on life. It's understandable. You know, Moon creates tides, big tides. What does mean tide? It means movement of water, what we have inside of us. We have with this water. So of course, Moon has tremendous effect on the ocean, but not why for us. Great effect. My daughter, when she was young, she was moon walker. So in full moon, she was at night, she was standing up and walking around. She was sleeping. And for us, it was important to close all the windows by that time. Because moonwalkers, one friend of mine, it's very funny. He's a colonel, he's quite elderly, and he is sitting at his home on 13th floor, a big building. And he's sitting at night, doing something. He's professor, colonel, and he has a balcony outside of his window. It's summertime, nice. And then he sees that along the balcony rail, young, beautiful girl is coming on the rail, or this thin rail. And she's just walking there like this. See? And he knew this, so he immediately ran to his neighbors and he told, you know, your daughter is there. Because she was a moonwalker. And in sleeping mode, she can go there just without any problems. But if you wake her up, she will fall off. That's important. So that is why. And of course, this geomagnetic field, it's not constant, it's flexible. It has its own frequency. Do you understand what this means, shown frequency? Do you know what this is? So this is just what we talk about. That is why we understand sun, it is the source of many processes, but not the only source. Because many planets, they don't have magnetic field. For example, moon has no magnetic field. Okay, okay, so let me show you some other pictures. And of course, we had papers where we demonstrated, we measured dependence of signal on conductivity of water, on concentration of salts. So of course, it's dependent, but to some extent. But what the most important? You see, this is very interesting data. We have a bottle of water. We open this bottle and we measure signal, and you see. For a long time, it's changing. Maybe for 20 minutes, maybe for half an hour. Then we have this water staying just on the table. And then we take this measurement, it's very stable. And you understand this is the level of variation of signal between different samples. And here it's quite stable. And this is measurement of distilled water. So when we open bottle, hermetically sealed bottle of distilled water, it changed, but very little. Quite stable signal. So you see this is the difference, what I've told you, and it's measurable. And of course, we can study not only water, but different liquids. It was big research in Arizona University with very precise approach. They've been measuring homeopathic solutions. And they demonstrated that it's really big difference between homeopathic solutions of different origin and initial water. And it was, of course, very high dilutions. So, and it's not only difference in signal, but in dynamics of this signal. So initial water is quite stable. Homeopathic solution is so electrophotonic. It's one of the way how we can study homeopathic solutions. Then it's another story. We've been measuring Bach flower essences, and you see this is initial solution, and those are different Bach flower essences. You see, huge difference in signal. And what's interesting, for me, it was very interesting to see difference between different concentration, because so we did, so that's initial solution, and then we added a quarter of a drop, half a drop, 1 drop, 2 drops, 3, 4, 5. And you see the highest signal you see with half a drop, and it's very precise dropper, or with 2 drops. And of course it's Sakashin, so it's everything. So, and in Dr. Bach book, it's written that it should be 2 drops of essence into water. So, and it was clear confirmation, because of course to drop half a drop, you need special dropper. It's very difficult without special equipment. But 2 drops you can drop with pipette. It's easy. So the question, how he came to ideas that it should be 2 drops, but not 4, not 5. And again, please pay attention. With 2 drops, it is high signal. With 3, it's much less. 4, again high. 5, much less. So it's non-linear dynamics. Because all what we are discussing now, it is demonstration of dynamics. You know that Bio Well, it's one of the few instruments that allow you to measure dynamics. In medicine, most it's based on static. You know that most of medical measurements, they are static. They are measuring at the moment. They take your blood at the moment, blood pressure at the moment. They take cardiogram at the moment. Only several measurements like cardio monitoring, this is dynamic. Because medicine is based on dead bodies. It comes from 19th century when everything was based on anatomy of dead bodies. Only now they slowly transforming to understanding these dynamics. Only now. Only due to new instruments. So that is really very difficult situation. Another very interesting moment I can show you. This is signal from different homeopathic solutions, and this is signal from pyramids. So we did a lot of experiments with pyramids, with water in particular, and we demonstrated that water change under the influence of pyramids. And I was able several times to climb in Mexico Teotihuacan pyramid, then other pyramids. We kept water there, and you see signal of water after pyramid looks very similar to the signal of homeopathic solution. Very similar. You see this. And then in the lower range, you see signal of water after model of pyramid. And it's very funny that water transformed to triangle. So it's again very interesting result. And of course, it's statistical difference between water signal initially and after pyramid. Or two samples, of course, we always have two samples, one under the model of pyramid, another under outside, and it's a big difference, statistical difference. And we had measurements in different models. For example, in Kansas, Wichita, they have huge model of Cheops pyramid, very huge, like about 15 meters or something like this. And they make a lot of treatment with this model. And we put water in different parts of this pyramid. And you see the highest signal was in the area of King's Chamber. Not on the top, but in the area of King's Chamber. And of course, we did a lot of measurements of people in Cheops pyramids. But this is much more complex, much more complicated. So I did as follows. It was a big experiment with American company. They did measurement with Bio Well of people outside and then inside the King's Chamber. You know that it's possible in Egypt. You can pay money and rent some time with Cheops pyramid where no one is allowed to come except yourself, except your group. It costs some money, but it's possible. So they've done people outside and then inside the King's Chamber. For all people, energy dropped down tremendously, tremendously. Then another company from Canada, they did measurements of people outside. Then people was coming inside the pyramid and then coming outside, and they were measuring later. In this case, it was increase of energy. We have many, not many, we have centers where they use models of pyramids for treatment of people. In particular in Brazil, they have, it's very popular. And we've done measurements of people in those places. And of course, we have very good effect of this. So there are no doubts that pyramids has effect, no doubts. I can show you a lot of scientific data on this. We have a lot of data. We have a review of scientific data on this topic. So it's interesting topic, very interesting topic. So I can show this to you. But of course, we don't really understand why is it so. So we have this evidence, but we don't have understanding why. And what does it mean? Yes, I have mentioned you these Bosnian pyramids. So it's clear that it's not tomb. It was created with some special design. Why? We don't know. Many theories, but no real proof. Again, another example is measurement of blood, cancer blood, healthy blood, and there's a big difference between cancer and healthy blood. Then we have many dynamic measurements. And we have a big correlation with weak photon emission of water. You know, this biophotonics, and it's measuring of weak emission of water. And Vladimir Vaekov, he's strongly involved in this. So we've done a lot of correlated measurements. They are very well correlated. Not only water, we can study different substances, for example, essential oils. It was big research. I was consulting for Estée Lauder companies for a long time, and we had big research on natural and synthetic essential oils. And we always selected oils with same spectrum. So from chemical point of view, they are very similar, same chemical spectrum. But with our measurement, they are different. So in many cases, they are different, and they have different signal. And of course, it's we compared natural, synthetic, we compared organic, non-organic. So it was difference in most cases. We compared, for example, rose oil from Morocco and Russia, and you see Russian rose oil has absolutely different type of signal compared with Bulgarian and Morocco rose oil. So it's understand that it's different species. So it's roses, but of the same type, but it's different species. Another big study was on the influence of crystals to water and gemstones. So we had this influence, and we are measuring absolutely clear influence of gemstones to water. Of course, it's all done in laboratory conditions. Everything was absolutely poor, and it was clear that after you immerse gemstone into water, it changes property. So it's a lot of data, a lot of experiments of this kind. And it was big research in Estée Lauder company, and we have developed a special cream. This is tourmaline charged cream. So the goal was to create cream for protection against mobile phones. And we have created this. So because it's a physical principle, we introduce tiny particles of tourmaline in the cream. And when you apply this cream to your face, then these tiny particles, they reflect electromagnetic field. So it's tourmaline charged cream. You can find it in Avida stores, because Avida company is a part of Estée Lauder company. And you can buy it in different countries, because Avida, they have their stores in different countries, not only United States, and you can find this cream. It's very good. For example, my daughters, they always, when I go to United States, they tell me, "Oh, father, please bring us this cream," and I always buy this cream. So it's very interesting. So of course, influence of different devices to water. There are one company in Germany. It's interesting. It's very rich company. What they do, they devise rings of this size, huge slabs from special material, and they sell it for huge money, for hundreds of thousands of dollars, because when ship owners put the slabs at the bottom of the ship in the cargo area, then in warm seas, different corals, they don't go to the ship, because it's a big problem for all ships when they are in warm waters. It's a lot of animals, they come and they live on the ship, and after some time ship has to go to the dock, and they have to clean it physically. If they keep the rings, then much less or practically no stuff, no shells are coming to this ship. So it's, of course, very end we demonstrate very high effect. So we have a lot of data published, and we have this water journal BioClip.org, where there are a lot of data, and our papers of Emilio De Giudici, Vayekov, other people. And we have a special website, waterconference.org, waterconference.org. And this is a website of conference that we have every year now in Bulgaria. And there it's a collection of top-level scientists who are involved in water. And we present different materials. I can show you my latest presentation at this conference. It's very funny. So this is influence of human intention to water, before and after human intention. And this is funny, this influence of one healer, then another healer, and healer number one, healer number two, and then they're together. You see that collective influence is much stronger than individual. Then remote, of course, it changed the structure of water, of course, so it's interesting. This I've shown you before. So again, we have a lot of data of this kind. And this is a presentation that we created with Vladimir Vayekov for this last year conference. Water as material matrix for the consciousness field. So idea is that in 21st century, we are developing new science of consciousness. And we are developing new science of water. So it is in parallel. And consciousness, it's a very complicated topic. So still we don't have clear definition of consciousness. We don't have clear understanding of consciousness, but the common notion of consciousness is a property of human brain. But consciousness, it's a common property of all biological subjects. So it's not only humans, it's not only animals. Now it's a lot of study about consciousness of trees, plants, fish. So we understand that all of them, they respond to environment, they respond to our human intention. So it's absolutely clear information, and it's a lot of research now, and it's all published. So, and we have levels of consciousness that we discussed with you. And we have the field of collective consciousness. So now it's a very common notion of about the field of collective consciousness. And the question is, what is the carrier of the consciousness field? So what is common in all of this conscious being? We have organized water. This is common for all conscious beings, organized water. And we have no doubt that water has awareness, memory, and foresight. Again, it is now well accepted. So, and what's unique in the brain? Brain is the most morphologically complex living matter, no doubts. Brain is one of the most wet organs in all organism. You know that only now it is in science they discuss the role of water in the activity of organism, only now. Before, it was practically no discussion of this kind. So water in the brain is most sophisticated, dynamically structured. So everything we discussed before about structure of water, in the brain, it is mostly presented. So water constitutes the majority of brain matter. It's not just nucleus, it's not neurons, it's water. And as in any other tissue, what is represented by both extracellular and intracellular fractions. In the brain, its specific states are provided by extensively complex architecture of nerves and auxiliary cells. their predominantly fiber and branching structure ensures at any moment specific structural organization of the brain water. So water in the brain is specially organized. And then we have now a new big research. You know that in MRI study, we study the property of water. Because MRI is based on studying the structure of water. And MRI was invented in 1971. And he based his idea on Gilbert Link idea of water structuring in living cells. So water has signal, and this signal is related to different principles of organization that we've been discussing. And it's totally in accordance with what Pollock have presented. So brain, and the question, of course, is brain is able to affect material world? And we know that in electrophotonic imaging, we have this a lot of data with this, with a lot of experiments of this kind. We have this quantum field theory, but at the same time, now it is proven that water is the second most abundant substance in the universe. So first, it is helium. Second, it is water. It's not hydrogen that was considered before, but water. And it's officially discovered in 2011. So, and all the universe is filled with water. Of course, most it is ice, but on all planets, we can find water in the format of ice mostly. But at some planets, there are liquid water as well. That's why now it's proven, and that's why we expect that there are life on other planets. I have no doubts, but we expect this. So, but on Titan and Europe, their satellites, now they are filled with water. Now it's again, it's proven. So, quantity of water inside the Earth may be several times more than in the oceans. Again, those are results of the latest discoveries, latest research. So we have, we don't have lack of water. We have just bad attitude to water. But now it's proven that water is created inside the Earth. It's not just from anywhere. It is created by Earth itself. So we have tremendous amount of water deep underground. That's why in the next generations, they will get water from the Earth, from inside the Earth. So in conclusion, we can compare. Consciousness is omnipresent. Water is omnipresent. Consciousness receives and stores information. Water receives and stores information. Consciousness is described by quantum field theory. Water is described by quantum field theory. We have different states of consciousness and we have different states of water. So very, very similar. So we can tell that water is the carrier of consciousness. Water responses to human consciousness. Water may transfer information from person to person. Water may be a carrier of a collective consciousness. So thus water appears as the most abundant substance in the universe, capable of never-ending transformation from ground to excited states and back. Maybe the key entity integrated the world both on inorganic, organic, and consciousness state of matter. You understand this principle. So this is really very significant conclusion. And of course, we can tell that water it is and consciousness, they are interrelated. So that's was my main idea for this presentation. And as I've told, now we are finishing this book. This is the last chapter of this book. And of course, in the book, we present a lot of scientific data. Because here I just give overview, but in the book, we give it in very detailed way with a lot of clear scientific data. Okay, now it's clear. Now I want to discuss with you one more topic that we need to mention because it's important, not to forget about this. First of all, just a little remark. You know that I see that some of you are still using this white stand for Bio Well. This white stand that we have in there for calibration, yes. So it was our idea for the first batch of our Bio Well instruments. For them it was necessary. But later on, we were able to improve tremendously construction of the device itself. So at the moment, you don't need this white stand at all. You don't need it. At the same time, we are developing new type of calibration devices, more convenient. And at the moment, we are producing just that we had before, and we produce another type with glass. And it was found very good, but unfortunately it's very fragile. So it breaks down. So after some time of using, we found that people have problems just because it's fragile. So we developed another device, another type of calibration device with new design, absolute new design. And this was found very good. This is really very good. So it's very reliable. It is stable. You can throw it from the window, and it's very good. But for this, we need to produce one more folding form for printing these some elements, because we produced in quantity. So first samples we did on 3D printer, of course, but on 3D printer you can't produce it in thousands, but we need in thousands. So we plan to have it ready by sometime somewhere, and then you will be able to get it and to replace your existing calibration with this one, because it's much better, much better. So you don't need to think how to position it. It's totally automatic. So it's just a remark. But anyway, you don't need this white stands anymore, so you can throw this out. It was just preliminary step, just throw it out. One more topic that let's discuss. Are you interested to know how we need to make research with Bio Well? Do we need to discuss this? Okay, let's discuss because it's a separate topic. Let's discuss about research. We have several types of research. One type of research when we compare, for example, two different groups of people. So we have, for example, control group and we have experimental group. And for example, it may be healthy people, it may be people with problems. For example, with some disease. And we need to compare those two groups. In this case, we take measurements of this group, then we take measurement of this group. We need to collect some amount of samples, minimum it should be more than 50 people in both groups. We make statistical analysis and we see whether there are differences or not. So we have many studies of this kind with cancer, with bronchial asthma, with diabetes, with different type of internal problems, and we always see this difference. But what's important? That's important. We should have this for men and women. Here, men, women. And we need to compare women together and men together. Only like this. then you have really good results. Because as I mentioned, men and women, these are two different subjects, two separate. Plus, of course, we need to take into account the influence of cycle. That is why for women, it is monthly cycle. And you understand, if you are measuring lady in the beginning of ovulation time and in the middle of menstruation time, it's two different situations. So that's why we need to be very careful when we do this measurement with women. We need to follow up cycle time for all women. Second topic, we should do it in one at the same time of the day. For example, if you do it in morning time, then you should do it in morning time for everybody. If you do it at night, then let's do it at night for everybody. Then it's much more reliable data. So then, and of course, you should take into account age. Age is important. Age groups. So first group is children. And we don't know exact age timing from 0 to what? To 6 years old, 7 years old, something of this kind. Then it is, so let's take it, so it's named children. And first let's make it babies. So babies, second is children. Then next group, it is young people. And what's the difference between children and young people? The difference is in development of hormones. Young people, those are people who have active sexual hormones. For the time of menstruation, first menstruation, for boys it's much more complex, but still somehow we need to distinguish this. And young people, typically it comes from some age, it may be 10, 12, different, to typically 25, 27. Again, it depends on many factors. In different countries, it's different. We have mature state. And typically we have mature state now less than 65, 70. So name it is middle age or middle age, mature or middle age, doesn't matter. And then we have 4, it's elderly. But again, it's more than 70 or 70, 75, it depends again. So we have at least these 4 groups, at least. That is why, if you want to make comparison, of course, you need to take people of the same age groups. So if you study elderly people, it should be elderly people. It doesn't make sense to compare elderly people with children or young people. It doesn't make sense at all. So that is one type of research. When we take big group of people, big group, randomized. And then we divide it to 2 groups. Control and experimental. And then we apply to experimental group some influence. For example, we give them some treatment, doesn't matter which. But of course, in control group, they should have some shame treatment that stimulate same procedure. And you know that typically they give medication here and placebo here. And then they look different. Now it is shown that, of course, placebo has effect, very strong effect. So now they're looking to increase of effect above the placebo. Not just difference, but above the placebo. But it may be different effects, different treatment. But you need to take into account that it should be placebo. So, and what's important in this case, in this type of research, you can do it in short time. It doesn't matter. It may take you 1 day, 5 days, 1 week, 1 month. Here it's very important. You take initial measurement, initially. Then you have this, and then you take second measurement. It should be at least 1 month. At least. Then you see the effect. Research. We have third type of research. We have a group of people. We take their measurement. Then we apply some treatment. And then we have same group of people after 1 month. So it's another type of research. And this is quite possible as well, because for blind study research, you need big cohort of people, because you need to divide them. For this type of research, it's much less people, so it's much easier to organize. But it allows you to see effect on big group of people. Of course, you can take measurement immediately after, but this is less significant, because immediately after, you have good effect. But after 1 month, maybe it will be nothing, or maybe effect. So that's how we can organize these different types of research. Of course, there are many other types, but those are the main types of research. And let's see how we can do this research with Bio Well. Okay, so this was big group of people measured before and after having some water. So it's that's so you know this was before and then same people after. So it was little difference. So ideas as follows: they had we measured them before, then they had glass of water, structured water, and they were measured immediately after having this glass of water. So what we do, we send this group of people before to the compare program. And you see now we have, let's make it at least 5 people, just for example. Then in compare, you are comparing all those 5 people. So we know this is people before. And in this program, simultaneously. So group may be up to 50 measurements. Then we send, we are not interested in just information, we just export to Excel CSV. And of course I can see different parameters, but for comparison, let's make only main parameters. And compare parameters before. Okay, so it's saved. Now go back. Same group after. Internet connection. Where is it? Same group of people after. And you see it's written here 5. Okay, and again export to CSV. Okay, so it's compare parameters after. Okay, now I have it. Now I go to this file, and of course you should remember where you saved it. You see it was in here. Before and after. So first I open this before. You see all parameters before. You see it's written here. Then I need to open this after. And then I make a copy of this after. And I copy it here. And I should read here after. Now, of course, so you see, those are different people. Those are different parameters. So I can create, for example, statistics. So, for example, I can create average. And let's make it like red. It's very bad screen, but still okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, so and energy field as well. And same I'm doing after. Okay, now I need to compare these numbers. So what I can do, I can just copy this and paste it here in a special way. Only numbers. And you see, it was, so it is before. This is after. And you see the difference. So this is level of stress, emotional pressure. Before it was 6, after it became 4. This energy, before it was 39, after it became 48. Symmetry, 20, 94, or 91, 94. Entropy coefficient dropped down because entropy coefficient is a measure of fractality, and it's good when it drops down. Area 5,000, 6,800. Energy, average energy 19, 23. So you see, just for these 5 people, I have this big difference in parameters. Of course, we need much bigger cohort. We need not 5 people, but maybe 20 people, 50 people. Then we can make all statistics. And then I can make all statistical conclusions, whether it was big difference, significant, not significant. But this is an example how we should do this. And you know that you see that in Bio Well, we have all instruments for this. So all data are there. And so that's a very convenient instrument for research. Of course, if you are not experienced in statistical programs, of course, it's easy to ask someone to do it, but that's all there, all is here. And what's important that as you have data in internet, you don't need to sit nearby a person. You can ask someone to do it for you. For example, very often some American companies, they make some research with Bio Well, and then they ask our lab to do research. And we are doing analysis of their data. So they collect data and then we do analysis. And that's very easy. And we have a lot of situations of this kind. Okay, so you understand this, yes? Is it clear? And of course, we need to collect this data. That's very important because we need to have data published because it's not only for Bio Well, but it's for all energy quantum medicine. You know, there's a strong movement now, but this movement needs support and scientific support. And the more data we collect altogether, the better. So that's why we need to create this information, and we need to have this as really significant data. Okay, so now let me, for example, we have, I've shown you some data on medicine, but it's only a little part, so we have a lot of other data published. But what's interesting for me, now we have more and more data on meditation and yoga. That's interesting. We have really big research on meditation and yoga. So, and let me show just some of them. We started this research in 2002 or 2003. So it was our research of influence of integrated mental training, and it's all published papers. Then it is research by London University, by Dr. Paul Dobbs, and they demonstrated very high correlations between data of in Bio Well, GDV by that time, and different psychological features. It was very high correlations. Then evaluation of anxiety. That was confirmation of our research on anxiety, on stress level. Then it was very interesting data on for disease diagnosis and intervention recognition. And it was PhD thesis done just this year, finished this year. And it was 200 subjects from 20 years old to 60 years old. And it was mostly diabetic subjects. And they demonstrated really clear difference between normal population and diabetic people. And then in India, they published a lot of papers on meditation. So it is anaparasa meditation. Then short-term, long-term meditation practice in men and women. And they demonstrated here in this paper that it is much stronger effect on women than on men. So it was because I often receive papers for review from different journals, and they send it to me, this paper, but it was no significant result. And that's why I recommend them. So you need to recalculate your data for different groups. And then they had significant results. Then it was really a significant paper. Then integrative yoga program. Again, it was very high effect. Effect of yoga-based techniques on stress and with our stress index. And again, it was demonstrated high effect. It's another paper for intervention meditation. This is a very special effect of Mahayani training, so it's separate type of yoga, and again it was very interesting. Then influence of music, different Indian music, and again influence to people. Different type of yoga, and it was clear difference. So you see, it's more and more papers coming on meditation, on yoga, using electrophotonic instrument, because it's really a very good system, very good instrument that can show you this really strong effect. So that's how we make this research. And by the end, let's discuss one more topic, just one more topic about energy. Because you need to understand what does it mean energy. Just as our last topic for our discussion. Because we all the time we talk about energy, but of course you need to understand what does mean energy. And I like very much the saying of Einstein that everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. That is a very nice saying. That's how we try to present data, our data. So, what is energy? Energy is general quantitative measure of any type of movement, activity, and the interaction of all types of matter. So, energy is the basis notion of physics. And it's possible to derive all other notion of physics from the energy. It's possible. And energy is nature, doesn't come from nothing and doesn't disappear. It can only transfer from one form to another form. So the concept of energy binds together all natural phenomena. And we can tell that energy is the capacity of to change physical system. So if you have energy in a system, you can change it. It may be internal energy or outside energy. So we can tell that energy is a medium for the organization and transformation of all information and structure. So nature exists only as open system, which constantly exchange energy and information with the environment. The human organism is an open system connected to Earth, Sun, and universe. That is very, very important, that we are part of the universe. And we are under the constant influence of all different forces in the universe. So we have different types of energy. When we move, when we apply some force, we can apply kinetic energy. And we can move this subject up to the mountain, for example, with kinetic energy. So, and then this subject has potential energy, just because of this difference in gravitational field. When it comes down, it loses some energy, and it transforms to excited energy state. So still it has some energy difference. from background state to, so we name it as excited energy state. And we understand that we are always have this type of energy. And chemical energy is made up of the kinetic energy of the movement of electrons and the electrical energy of the interaction of electrons among themselves and with atomic nuclei. Internal energy is equal to the sum of the kinetic energy of molecules movement around the center of a body mass and the potential energies resulting from the interaction of molecules among themselves. So you see, this all is quantum processes. That's important. And we need to understand that all our energy based on quantum process. And energy is everything around us. Very important notion is entropy. Entropy is a measure of macroscopic configurations in the system. In other words, entropy is a measure of chaos. In a closed system, entropy can only increase. So we have structured subjects, but if we just leave it alone, it would come to disorder, and entropy will increase. And we see it in everyday life. So in everyday life, entropy increases by itself. So it's, and you know, this little boy, he does, I am not responsible, I blame energy, entropy. And it was this notion of entropy that famous scientist of 19th century, he came to idea that universe should die because entropy is increasing and it should increase temperature. So finally, our Earth should be overheated and die, and as a part of universe. And this was one of the conclusions of 19th century science. And it was Ilya Prigozhin, a Belgian scientist, who received his Nobel Prize when he disapproved on mathematical principle this idea. And he created the principle of dissipative structures. So his main principle that we are totally constantly changing structures interacting with environment. So we are open structures. So, and it's interesting that Newtonian equations, they are time reversible. So in all those equations, you can replace time with minus time and it will be same. So it created a lot of paradoxes. And Erwin Schrödinger, in his equation, again, time is reversible. And it was, again, another paradox. That's why I mentioned you that quantum mechanics, it is limited. One's limitation is time reversibility. So, and so they came to understanding, came idea of quantum collapse of wave function, but again, it was one of the paradoxes. So Prigozhin was awarded with Nobel Prize in 1977 for his contribution to non-equilibrium thermodynamics and the theory of dissipative structures. Those are structures that is far from equilibrium state. And he demonstrated that in this condition, structures can self-organize. So, like biological systems, matter and energy of flow entropy flow through the dissipative structure. So, we are constantly in a flow of entropy. We're constantly in a flow of energy and information. And this is the principle of life. That's why we discussed with you that life is dynamics. And so he's a famous person, and he created ideas like bifurcation points, non-linearity, attractors, symmetry breaking, morphogenesis, autocatalysis, irreversibility, and it's not all of them belong to Prigozhin, but he's one of the most important. So we understand that our universe is an open system, far from equilibrium. So Prigozhin asserts that Newtonian physics has now been extended 3 times. First with the use of the wave function in quantum mechanics, then with the introduction of space-time in general relativity, and finally with the recognition of indeterminism in the structure of unstable systems. So Newton was genius. He created our understanding of universe, but this was limited to some extent. Now we extended it much more. So it means that life is unpredictable. And ancient old ideas that we can calculate time in ahead, that we can predict some events, that is total nonsense. Because life consists from bifurcational points. And at every point, you come to this point, you can go this way or that way. To marry this guy or that guy. To get this job or that job. To stay in this city or to move to another city. That's bifurcation points that we have all the time in our life. And all those points, they are unpredictable. You can never guess what will be the outcome. You seems to you that you like this guy, that after some time you understand that you was in love with another guy, and this guy is not a good one. And we have this station in literature, in it's very well known Russian sayings that was about a person who is coming to this bifurcational stone, and then it's written, if you go to the right, it is death. If you go to the left, you will be dead. So this way or that way. And matter is energy that has become condensed to hold a pattern. So understand, matter, it is just condensed energy. And this is demonstrated by Einstein, that really demonstrated that it's interrelated. And the best example, of course, is atomic power. When from little amount of matter, you create huge energy, tremendous energy. Because you know that atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it was only several hundred kilos, nothing else. But they created huge energy. With nuclear bomb, of course, it's much higher. And now we have nuclear power stations that use this power. And at the moment, it's one of the rare example of clean energy. And that's why we have, in many countries, we have many reactors. Of course, there are many other problems with this, but still we have a lot of nuclear power stations, and still they construct these power stations. A good friend of mine, he was the deputy director of the National Institute of Atomic Energy for many years, and they are constructing nuclear stations worldwide in different countries. So what is human energy? We discussed that human energy based on so-named Krebs cycle, so I don't want to give it again. But what's important, that this idea, this notion, makes us a bridge between modern physics and Oriental science. So the notion of movement of energy along the body totally interrelated with the notion of electron transfer. It's all interrelated topics. And so we understand we eat electrons and protons. We don't need food, we need electrons and protons. And we have mitochondria. This is the main source of energy. So we have this energy reserve, energy station in every cell of our body. And then we just need to redistribute this energy. When we need it for physical activity, we send it to our muscles. When we need it for mental activity, we send it to our brain. When we need it for love, we send it to other parts of the body. So, but we have tremendous amount of energy in the body, tremendous amount. And we know that life is based on light, air, and water. So this is the basis of life. So we are children of the sun, living on the light of the world, and we are ourselves. We emit light. So we can measure these biophotons, we can measure bio well. So, and energy reserve program, it is a program that allows to directly measure the amount of energy that we keep in our cells. That's why, again, I pay attention to this program. That's a very important and very powerful program. And of course, we are extracting a lot of energy from food. We understand this. And then we are transforming this to adenosine triphosphate, adenosine diphosphate. It's based on blood glucose. That's why it's so important. That is why it's so dangerous, diabetes. Because diabetes is not only high blood pressure, high blood sugar, but it is the lack of energy for mitochondria. That's why it's so important. And main sources of energy is glucose, fatty acids from food and our own, then ketone bodies, and creatine. And of course, we have aerobic and aerobic process. We know this. And in sport, we are using both aerobic process and anaerobic. So with oxygen and without oxygen. And of course, different athletes, they use different extent of this. So the more trained people, the more efficiency of using oxygen. And that's why it's so important to have this activity. And another topic that we need to keep in mind, this is a circadian rhythm of life. It's another important topic. And we can measure it by cortisol. So we need to have circadian rhythm of cortisol. And because cortisol is hormone of survival, so it should be the highest in the morning, and then it should come down during the day. That's why if you just measure cortisol at some moment during the day, it has no meaning at all. Because you see numbers from 5 to 25. So if you just measure it during the day, it's no information at all. But what's important, this type of measurement is quite complicated, long on saliva, and it may be done only in specific laboratories, but you can do it with Bio Well, same. You can take measurement from one finger during the day, every several hours, and you see this transformation of activity. And this is very, very important. And as we discussed, we have these different dynamics of one finger measurement. And these dynamics, again, it is absolutely clear indication of organism activity. So just please pay attention to this. And of course, we have this program in every Bio Well system that shows you monthly circadian rhythm. And again, it has a very deep meaning. When you have these parameters in low range, it means energy in very low condition. And then, of course, you should be careful at this moment. So I really suggest you to use this program for all your customers and for yourself. So you need to see which dates during months you have in low range. And in those days, you should be very, very careful and very attentive. Okay, so that's enough for today, because I understand that you are overloaded with information. It's impossible to process this information, impossible. But a lot of information I have in materials, most of information. So it is in the books, most of information, and you can get those books now in different languages. A lot of information we have on videos as well. Now we are creating this as video course, so it will be more and more available with Kirill's team, with other teams as well. So our idea to make all this available, all this open. And of course, if you have questions, you can ask questions. And then typically now I refer people to different papers. I don't need to answer question. I just need to refer to some page in some particular book, because it's all written there, or to some published papers. Okay, so thank you very much for your time, for attention. Now we can switch to drinking beer. They have really good beer here in Prague. And so tomorrow you have next level of your course. Okay, thank you very much for everything.